My voice has changed. Mrs. Future, could you get me back to being Al? Please.
Thank you.
Say, kids, what time is it?
The future is coming on, it's coming on, it's coming.
And here we are today in beautiful downtown Boulder Creek, actually up in the hills in Boulder Creek. Mrs. Future and I, Al Lundell and son Marion McNamee.
Present and accounting for.
And Bobby, our science guy, is in San Fran. You there, Bobby?
Yes, I'm here on a warm day.
Oh.
Wow.
Is it sunny there in San Francisco today, too? No fog?
Oh, gosh, yeah. It's kind of like a weird heat wave. I mean, it's like 80 degrees outside.
You know, Bobby, you really have your radio gravelly voice on today.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good. It gives you a sense of seasoned reporter.
Yeah.
We had a great weekend. We actually all got to hang out together.
Yeah. That was Party Central, huh?
Yeah,
Came down
wasn't it?
Friday night at the Brookdale Lodge where we were
Celebrating your birthday.
a strange attractor, yeah.
Yeah, your very birthday.
Yeah, so we rented a room in the old haunted hotel and lucked out by having this really sweet band, a local band called the Janissaries, who were playing Grateful Dead and
A few other
different
mixes,
kinds
it
of
was fun.
60s cover music.
The cool part is that we had a little hotel room not too far from the venue, so you could walk back and forth from the music to the hotel room party.
At least two of my friends texted me when they left. The party started at 5, the dancing started at 8, and so there was kind of a migration toward the dance around 8, and a bunch of people left, and they sent me notes saying that their backs were sore from sitting on the beds in the hotel room. We're that age. We need chairs. We need our chairs.
Well, you did say for people to bring their
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, I realized that we were going to have a shortage of chairs for the early part of the party. And so I sent out about 10 notes for people to bring chairs. And 2 of the people who I sent notes to said they couldn't because their backs were bad. And some of the other people didn't even come. And then I found out later it's because they thought they had to bring chairs. So much for a potluck at the Brookdale Lodge, you know. And I said it's not a potluck because we're just having birthday cake and dancing, but asking people to bring their own chairs was too much.
Yeah, it was a little bit much for people to bring chairs to a hotel. Well, it's funny. There were a lot of chairs at the restaurant right next door there. We could have just grabbed them there.
But it wasn't open.
I know, but the chairs were outside.
Right. Down.
Yeah.
Oh, where were you when I was trying to arrange that?
Yeah, well, I don't know. Just my strange mind.
Yeah,
Things.
it's the old 2020 hindsight.
I tell you what, let's play just a minute of
cool.
singing happy birthday to you, huh?
Oh,
Okay.
sweet. Okay.
Okay.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear son. Happy birthday to you.
Okay, there you go.
And I made my own homemade, very sugar-free, friendly carrot cake for birthday cake, and we'll be finishing off the last pieces of that today.
That was a great carrot cake.
Oh,
That
I'm
was
glad
great.
you liked
I
it.
really loved that.
I sweetened it with stevia and monk fruit, so there was no sugar in that.
Wow.
Yeah, the cake was amazing. It was amazing.
That was amazing.
And when you have a lot of musicians in the house too, other songs, let me play a few seconds of another birthday song that just spontaneously erupted. Check this out.
Happy birthday, and may all your dreams come true. When you blow out the candles, one light stays aglow. That's the love light in your eyes wherever you go.
All right, there you go. That's another birthday song.
Yeah, good thing we had really tall candles because there were a lot of birthday songs coming
people
in
had
right
a few
then.
things to say, and there were preambles and all kinds. Anyway, they'll put you all up on social media before long.
Yeah, it was
But here,
fun.
you got a preview, folks.
That was a very sweet gathering. That was many of my favorite people.
Truly, yeah.
Then most of us spent that night at the hotel, at the haunted hotel, including Donna Hale, who really, she's a medium psychic among her other healing talents. And she had to put up with a whole bunch of ghosts trying to contact other people on this side
She
of the
actually
veil.
saw them, huh? The ghosts
She
at
did.
the
She
thing?
basically helped one of them connect with one person, and then she said, "That's it. I'm not here to be a telephone tonight." And she surrounded herself
Wait a minute.
with light and said, "That's it. We're done."
She was connecting a ghost up with another ghost, or was somebody in this world? Or,
She
had a modem?
consented to one message delivery, and I didn't really get all the details.
Oh, okay. I'll have to ask her about that.
Yeah, you'll
Okay.
have to ask her. Because I was worried about it. Because when I invited her down, of course, it was for the birthday party, and I didn't really connect that she was
Yeah.
going to have extra guests at her party compared to all of us.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
she's been in that situation enough. She knows just what to do.
Yeah. If you invite me, you invite my gang.
That's right. That's right. Anyway, that was really fun. And then
Oh,
we
you know,
woke up the next morning.
Yeah,
we
you
had our
know,
brunch
yeah.
at newly reopened location in Ben Lomond.
Well, the Casa Nostra.
No, now it's called Dreamers, I
Dreamers,
think.
right.
Right, and it's
Right.
open.
Great restaurant in Ben Lomond.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Redwood
it was
trees
great.
galore. You know, it's just, yeah. You were there. You were there for
Yeah,
that.
it was perfect. At lunch, I had Salisbury steak and eggs. It was perfect.
Not too crowded. You know, that's the advantage of a new restaurant.
Yeah. Everybody there is local and super friendly and really pulling together to try and bring this thing back from the brink, because it's been closed for over a year and it's such a magical location.
It's a world-class environment.
Yeah. And Alan, the proprietor, who lives pretty much in the neighborhood and has been telling us for years about the scuttlebutt, about all of the mishaps going on for the old Casa Nostra restaurant and
He knows all the
the
download
history
on,
before that, the Ciao Bella days.
right, on
with
and on.
Ted.
And all the restaurants, not just the Ciao Bella.
And
Yeah,
another
but
ghost,
yeah.
now called Dreamers, formerly Casa Nostra and Ciao Bella, they also have ghosts. So there's Ben Lomond is a very active ghost
Well, that's
community.
Ben Lomond, Brookdale. Boulder Creek, however, we just have
We
future
just have we have old trees,
old trees and future ghosts.
They're still alive. They're not ghosts.
Yeah.
Well, I guess a few of them have been lost in fires, but for the most part, they're pretty vital.
Yes, indeed. And one other thing from this weekend.
Right. Oh, then Saturday night, I mean, it
You
was
read a
really
review.
jam-packed.
You read a review.
Right. So we were invited by one of the producers, Rena Satori, who is an old Santa Cruz local who has been living up in Fairfax and Nevada City and, all the cool places us Bay Area
Yeah, I
folk
remember her
like.
from the shamanic cheerleaders days.
Right. Yeah, back in the Health and Harmony era. So she and a number of other very talented folks, including our own dear local Janet Croteau of the Tell Me More fame, they put on an incredible theater piece called So This Is Menopause. And all of the women who produced this, each of them spoke their own personally crafted story to take us through the tragedies, traumas, and transformations of menopause.
Yeah,
And it
some
was a
really
wonderful show.
wild stuff there. Man, I had no idea menopause was so dynamic.
Yeah, right.
Hot flashes really were something. And sometimes I can believe it. Man, we guys got it easy comparatively.
Yeah, very educational show, huh?
Yeah. It was really funny. And the women were great. It was a theater education, I guess you might call it, where people are sharing personal stories theatrically that are very vulnerable, very personal, and yet very theatrical and out there.
Yeah. Here, I wrote a little review for them that I published on my Medium account.
Medium.
And I put a link on Facebook, but just to give you a little taste of my description of the show, right?
Yeah.
The players and the crew performed with great mastery, and the staging and lighting were rich tapestries and flowers, and 3 boxes and 2 chairs became scenes from the gynecologist's office, or the car, or the mysterious stairway descending from the queen's crown into the 7 stages of menopause. The use of blood-red veils created subtle costuming, where a garment could indicate menses or dreaming, or a baby, or the many characters in dialogue with each other as each solo actress brought these characters to life. They embodied Callie, or the guardian angel Dory, or Mommy, or Daddy, or any of the myriad important people in the touching and personal stories. If you have a chance, if they perform it again and you see it, you should definitely put it on your calendar. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience. Great show. Congratulations, you guys.
Yeah, and I think it's going to go on. It's going to be traveling. It's a traveling show. As they go into different city, they will have their core crew, but they'll also bring in local talent to mix in with their
we were
core.
speaking with the directors and people after the show, and they said I think this was their 4th, maybe 5th performance. They've done it up in those cities that I mentioned before, Fairfax, Nevada City, and now Santa Cruz, and I think they'd like to take it to LA. I think they'd like to take it to New York.
Yeah, I think they'll take it around the world.
They're going to try and go on
it's
the
a
road.
universal thing. It's one of those topics that
There's women with menopause everywhere.
right.
That's true.
Man.
Yes. That was our birthday weekend, and then
we had our
gorgeous weather.
ex-NASA scientist buddy stop by
yes.
too, who's
We
also
had-
a world-class VJ.
That's right.
Doing incredible
Xavier,
visuals.
Dr. Paradiso.
Shared with him. And then there was also this last week was Tomorrowland that was happening in the world. It's a large-scale electronic dance music festival. And it was held in French Swiss Alps. One of our favorite DJs, Miss Monique.
Yes,
was
we
playing there.
attended that rave online just
Yeah.
because we're huge fans of Ms. Monique.
And there's been a lot of spin-offs of this festival, but Tomorrowland, of course, on Future Now, we got to let you know that Tomorrowland was worth paying attention to. Just to celebrate that, I'm going to just play a minute of Tomorrowland. This is held in a giant, beautiful hall with large Roman pillars, huge screens that are decorated as windows into Gothic cathedrals.
I mean, it's a classic rock stage for a celebrated DJ, and it's just an incredible event.
Yeah.
Let me take you on a trip. Just a simple journey. A journey full of sound and beats. One that will lead you down, way down to the underground. I said the underground, where your body begins to tremble and your hands become just a little nimble. The underground, where the party children are waiting and there's no contemplating. At the underground, the diva starts screaming, and oh how the boys are beaming, where your feet can take to flight, and the DJ makes it right. Ah, the underground, baby.
Tomorrowland, everybody put your hands up, put your hands up, put your hands up, and make some noise for the wonderful Miss Monique.
What else we got going on here?
Quite a bit this week. In the AI front, Google's rolling out Gemini's real-time AI video features.
Yeah, this is a classic Google rollout where it's all demo. No clickbait, no interaction, just a video showing how it did work for someone who has access, even though we don't have access. If you have Google One AI Premium subscription, then this is what you will get later this week.
Part of it is be able to aim your phone at something, ask a question about it, and get a usable answer. Check this out.
Okay, so I just fired this vase, and I have these 2 other pieces. Which of these glazes do you think would be best for a mid-century modern look?
Based on the colors in the photo, I'd say the olive green or the muted blue tiles would fit that mid-century modern vibe best.
Well, which one of those goes with the pieces that I already have glazed better?
Between the olive green and muted blue, I think the olive green, the first one on the left in the second row, would be the better choice.
That's the demo.
And of course, there is a phone that is being used to have that conversation with the AI, and it's pointing at some bricks in the room and some paint chips on the counter. And so the commercial has been made to show you what Gemini will be capable of doing when they roll it out for the rest of us.
And this is an example of how they're trying to compete with Amazon. As Amazon's about to roll out Alexa Plus, which is an upgrade. They'll be doing similar types of capability.
But Alexa doesn't use a camera, does it?
No, none of them use the camera live. None of them say, okay, what's this person I'm looking at? Tell me about them.
Yeah.
Nothing like that. But with all these upgrades, it's just a matter of time now.
Well, we learned this morning when we were trying to get Grok's Aura to talk to Sesame.com's Miles that Aura is actually a text-based AI.
They all are. They all are,
but Aura, we have managed to get Aura speaking through the interface on the show, and it turns out that that's just after it's all been processed through a text translator.
Yeah.
Right? So...
Yeah,
anyway,
so this is a little different.
Still text.
Yeah, and thanks, Taylor Tamp points out that Apple uses the camera for. So I've seen it in Be My Eyes.
Well, yeah, we're just talking about in the AI world.
Yeah, specifically with the AI features that are coming out. I think we'll see similar types of things with the Alexa Plus upgrade and Apple's Siri, though Apple has delayed Siri till next year for many of its upgrades.
Yeah, they just canned the head of Siri, right? Isn't that
I think so. There's a article somewhere. Guy in charge of Siri is canned. Not good. Not good with the future.
He missed his deadline.
As long as he wasn't working for the government, I suppose. Meanwhile, Samsung has Bixby, and you'll be seeing some development there too. And
yeah, but the skinny that we got from our friend, the AI developer, is that Perplexity is really
it's the cat's meow.
Cat's meow.
Perplexity,
in terms of AIs, because it searches the web. It's really fast.
That's one of the big breakthroughs right now is which ones connect to live data and which ones connect directly to the web, for example. You can ask them the weather today.
Yeah.
Even. So,
that's your test question. Is it live?
Yeah.
Because most of them got their large language model database, say, a year ago. So they have a lot of information, but not a lot of current information.
Right. Grok's kind of a hybrid because it's not really connected live to the web.
What was that?
I don't know. That was a new sound.
Okay, those solar flares, they want to go live.
Yes.
We're learning to speak solar tongue here.
Check your social media quick.
All right. Hey, speaking of social media.
We got
guess
our
what time
it is.
Okay. Santa Cruz
say
voice.
no more.
Time to
totally
get
got
social.
It.
Okay.
All right, let's get social.
All right.
Here's some of our social friends here.
Yeah, these are real people in the Santa Cruz area who love Santa Cruz voice as much as we do.
All right.
All right. Hang tight. We'll be with you in a sec.
You have a voice and would like to be heard. Cabrillo College Extension, CTV, and Santa Cruz Voice are hosting an 8-part podcasting and streaming concept to creation class beginning the 1st of April. Learn everything you need to create and host your own digital media show. Selecting hardware and software, formatting, programming, recording, editing, distributing, marketing, and monetizing. Details and registration on the Cabrillo College Extension website under podcasting and streaming. Seating is limited, so do not delay. Be heard.
It's time now to repair or replace your roof. Hi, folks. Warren Knox here of Knox Roofing. Well, we install leak-proof and fire-proof roofs. Roofs that look nice with a lot of choices of colors and styles. Gutters, skylights, insulation, and roof decks. We only install proven products with warranties unmatched by anybody. Financing is always available, and we have discounts for veterans and seniors. Do business with Knox Roofing, and you'll also receive a free Knox Garden Box. The number to call again is 831-461-0634. Thanks, folks.
You need a clean, pleasant space to conduct business, but you don't want the burden of a long, expensive lease. Your solution is Satellite Co-working and Digital Media Studio on Soquel Avenue. Satellite offers private offices, meeting and conference rooms, even co-working by the hour, day, week, or month. Schedule a tour at satellitecoworking.com. Mention Santa Cruz Voice for 20% off your first reservation.
Cannabis is one of nature's most beneficial plants. Hello, I'm Jenna. Treehouse Dispensary, we use information about cannabis to build community. Listen to Carly.
Thanks, Jenna. For those who wake up in the middle of the night, Treehouse suggests a THC CBN chocolate edible blend like Sleepy Time from Sensi Chew. Sleep the night away.
For answers to your cannabis questions, ask your friends at Treehouse Dispensary, 3651 Soquel Drive in Soquel, or ourtreehouse.io.
Okay, we are back. So, Bobby, what's this about NASA's black hole? Black hole sun?
There's on the sun, instead of just the small sunspots, which are little black dots, we've got this huge black area. I mean, it's gigantic.
That's bigger than like Jupiter.
Hundreds of Earths size,
Yeah.
We're at this solar maximum.
Wow.
So sometime this year we could be hit, some of the satellites in the sky could be knocked out with this solar flare that
The
could
sun is
come.
burning up.
Yeah.
But something is happening to the sun that's kind of unprecedented right now. Yes.
Right. At least since we've been recording.
Yeah.
We know that our civilization's been wiped out a number of times. It's kind of like the cosmic radiation belt. We just don't know what happened before.
Yeah. I'm going to go out after the show. I have these solar filters that you can filter out for solar eclipses, but you can filter out the sun and you can see the sunspots without damaging your eye.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. They're actually thin films of aluminum on plastic, on mylar, and you put that on your camera lens, and then you can actually watch the sun.
Oh, yeah. I think I've seen that, like translucent, shiny aluminum.
Yeah. You just put that on the front lens of your camera, and then you can actually see sunspots. But this time, I'm going to look for this big black hole that just appeared. I'll let you know how it looks. Yeah.
I mean,
I'll take a picture of it.
It looks a lot like a continent on the sun. Like when you see a map of Earth and you see the continents in the middle of the ocean, this looks like a big charred black continent on the sun. It's huge.
Yeah. Coronal black hole. That's what they call it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, we've got our new Dwarf 3 telescope. So
Yeah, hey, when
Oh.
I'm off
So you
to
could
my
use that, right?
to my birthday bath, you got to
Yeah.
get us some footage with the Dwarf 3.
for sure. Yeah,
Take
no,
some
that's the way to
pictures
go
of the
with this.
sun.
I totally see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you need the filter, you don't want to damage the...
No, it's got a special filter for the sun.
Yeah.
Oh, it does? Oh, then use that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's designed for
Yeah.
this.
It does the
And it
moon,
tracks
it
the
does the
sun
sun, and it does maps of galaxies where it takes lots and lots of pictures and then aligns them and deepens the color.
Okay, so this is a
Wow.
giant coronal hole that we can look at.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And it's got a dense wall of plasma around it.
Look at that.
Yeah.
It's huge.
It is gigantic. The sun would be just like a pinpoint compared... Not the sun, but the Earth.
Looks like it has a really bad case of acne and it's grimacing about it. It looks so ugly. It put its ugly face on.
Yeah. I've never seen anything like this. It's called CH575, this area of the sun.
Wow.
CH575.
All right.
Does it associate with any type of corona ejecta that might...
Yes, there can be. And there could be massive ones. It depends on if it's facing us and it ejects exactly at the right time. What's happening is the magnetic poles of the sun are flipping. They flip periodically, much more often than the Earth poles flip. Like they flip every 12 years or 11 years or something like that.
Yeah.
But this time, something strange has happened.
You know what's really strange about this video? Is that it's great shots of the sun. That you just sent the black hole corona of the sun. It looks amazing. But the guy explaining it to us looks like an android, like a fake, like a...
Well, it's
real
the green
person.
screen effect.
Is it?
Where
No, because he looks... Is he a real person?
he's a real person. Yeah. Oh, you think he's synthetic? He's a
Oh, yeah, it looks like he's
synthespian.
got the same motions constantly, pointing in spheres. And And he stares at you constantly.
Well, I think he's reading. I think that's his teleprompter.
Typical, you could say, as a result.
Yeah,
of the
he's reading a
dynamics
teleprompter.
of
That's
that.
right.
This goes to show you how large coronal holes can get.
I mean, he's
as
like
well.
a weatherman.
And I'd say that the coronal holes we have
Okay, so you think he's real? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I've followed him for months. He's real.
Okay. All right. Good.
I could be fooled, though. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's a good excuse to pull my telescope out. Thanks
Well,
for that, Mike.
the good news is
absolutely.
I can tell you I tried an old-fashioned remedy experiment yesterday in the full sun. Yesterday morning, I was feeling a little like I needed a mid-morning nap, around 8 to 10 in the morning. I had come home from our long walk on Cliff Drive with a little bit of a sore throat and just exposure to the cold or something like that. And I had doused it with mouthwash that I do just so it doesn't turn into a full-blown cold or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I'd gotten most of it, but a little piece of it was still kind of bugging me, and I was, not wanting to get sick. And I decided to try an old-fashioned remedy of just sunshine on the germs in the back of my throat. And so I held my mouth open facing the sun for about 5 minutes. And sure enough, it got rid of all the rest of my sore throat.
Oh, yeah. I guess that makes sense.
So, instead of popping vitamin D, the chemical, I just went direct to source,
Oh.
Yeah.
How much infrared light is in sunlight?
Most of it. There's more than 80% of the energy that is felt on the earth and what plants are sucking up is in the infrared. Less than 20% is visible to us.
Oh, less than 20%. Okay. How about sunlight's ability to kill germs, microbes?
That's in the ultraviolet.
That's the other side. Okay, the UV side. How much UV then comes from the sun?
There is, except, let's see, when does it not? At sunset and sunrise, you don't get very much UV, but at mid-noon, yes, you get a lot of UV. Yeah. It doesn't go through the atmosphere. When it glances off the side of the atmosphere at an angle, at sunset and sunrise, the UV doesn't penetrate the glazing off the atmosphere when it hits us.
Okay, UVA is the predominant type, it looks like, that hits the Earth, and UV radiation. Yeah, that's what I wonder. About 10% of the total radiation of the sun is UV. Okay.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense that it would be a good way of cleansing yourself of unwanted microbes to be out in the sun.
You remember during COVID in China and certain hospitals here, they had these robots that had UVB light, but you couldn't be in the room when it was sterilizing these hospitals. It was a little robot with this bright light, and it was UVB, and it would sterilize everything, all the instruments, everything in the room.
Yeah, UV sounds awesome, but from what I've read here, it says that most of the UVB rays from the sun are absorbed by the Earth's ozone layer.
That's right,
and
yes.
that just leaves us with the UVA as the predominant type that reaches. But UVA probably has some antimicrobial capacities, it would appear.
Yeah. Yes, they do. And then there's also UVC, which when there's an ozone hole in the air, sometimes you can get UVC, which is extremely high frequency, and it's very damaging. It can change your chromosomes.
Yeah, I see now. It says germicidal UVC rays, shorter in wavelength, are more effective at inactivating microorganisms.
Yeah, they do. But it's very rare for the sun to actually have a ozone
not present
hole.
in sunlight due to ozone's absorption.
Yeah.
So they need to be generated artificially. Hence, the robot is able to generate UVC rays as well as UVB.
Yes. So the higher ultraviolet frequencies, they can kill things and damage DNA and things like that.
Yeah, it looks like they're used quite extensively for disinfecting water, utilizing both UV and visual parts of the solar spectrum.
Right.
It says
so those reverse osmosis systems where you actually at some of the better ones have these little tubes. Inside the tube is a UVBC tube light, and then the water goes down the tube, and then it's encased in this metal tube so that the light doesn't affect people. But it does sterilize bacteria. let's say you have well water and you're worried about there's bacteria in the well. Instead of putting chlorine in the well water, you just run it through this UV light tube and it sterilizes your water.
That sounds very efficient. Yeah. That and ozone.
Oh, yes. Ozone can do it too. That's interesting. Yeah. Dr. Dan was telling me how effective ozone is and how you can actually inject it straight into the bloodstream through an IV. You don't have to worry about embolizing. In other words, having bubbles in your veins when they inject the ozone, because the ozone immediately absorbs into the bloodstream. That's what Dr. Dan was telling us.
Yes, yeah. I heard that's a pretty effective a treatment. But in summary for this solar UV rays, it appears that they're not sufficient for water disinfection by themselves because of their limited availability thanks to our ozone layer. But we can use UVC light devices and other types of gadgets that can be highly effective at using UV light in killing microbes.
Yeah, you just have to avoid being exposed to the UVC because it rarely comes to us on Earth. And it's kind of a rare, you have to have a machine or a bulb that actually emits UVC, but it can damage. It's worse than a sunburn is what I'm saying.
Yeah. There was a very interesting story this week, a little bit more a comedic note. It was about a new invention, a French inventor, Christian Poncheval. He's developed a special pill that transforms the scent of flatulence into pleasant aromas, like roses, violets, chocolate, even ginger. He got the idea from being at a meal with friends, and he had some particularly odorous farts, and that promoted him to seek a solution to how to mitigate this embarrassment of smelly gas that can happen to us.
Well, I have a little comment about that.
Do you?
Yes, because Christian Poncheval is not the first person who developed a perfect product for stinky farts. I don't know if you remember from about 4 years ago. I'll give you a little teaser.
Give me reminders.
And
4 years
see
ago.
if you recognize this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. All right. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I love the smell of poop. Said no one ever.
Do you remember what product that is?
Poo, stink-free, potpourri.
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 Right.
Yeah, that was.
They have got an amazing guarantee.
Potpourri is 99% effective at eliminating odor. Should you be the unfortunate owner of the 1% of poop potpourri doesn't fully eliminate and you'd like to request a refund, simply send a fecal sample to our headquarters. I'm fully kidding. Just email us. Oh, goodness, I shouldn't have said that. Please don't send us your poop. Potpourri. Stop stink before it starts.
Well, that's a good. Wait, that stop stink before it starts. Now that kind of fits the story.
Yeah, well, that's why I was just saying
Even better
that
than potpourri.
You're looking at a Facebook channel called Famous Pulse, and they specialize in viral videos. And I'm just saying that viral poop, it has its cycles.
This really transformed it before it starts.
You should read this. It's pretty cute.
The Pilule Pet.
It's called Pilule Pet. Pilule Pet
combines natural ingredients such as vegetable charcoal, fennel, seaweed, and blueberries.
And that neutralizes the unpleasant odors. But then what? That's not enough.
Well,
then they also flavor it with different smells.
How do they do that, Mrs. Future?
I do not know. This could be a cow fart kind of post. It could be completely made up to test our gullibility.
Blueberries, like fennel, seaweed, charcoal.
Charcoal neutralizes the smell, right?
Yes.
So then fennel, seaweed, and blueberries, I guess, are some of the potential flavors. It says those are the neutralizers. But this says that they'll give you flavors like roses, violets, chocolate, even ginger. So it's you don't have to stop pooping. It's just your poop is actually a feature, not a bug.
Well, it makes the experience more socially acceptable.
In the chats, it suggests that
Are
people
you
deliver
sharing
this.
experience?
You ask your friend you let them know that your flatulence is imminent, and you stand in front of them while they sit on a chair in front of you.
Well, it depends on what it sounds like. Now, if he could change the sound of it so it was more pleasant.
You're saying
Future,
some sounds that
effects,
would complement
sound
this
effects.
oral experience?
Hey, they're on your board there. Look at that, Mrs. Future. You got a whole bunch of them.
Oh, uh-huh.
These things come in a 60 capsule pack. 60 capsules, and they're priced at about $20. Chocolate might be better. Enough on that topic.
The smell of chocolate, huh?
Yeah. It reminds me of the guy that was at the Redwood Fair that had created and invented the fart flute. The idea is that you take the sound and you want to transform it. So he created a special musical instrument that once inserted would change the sound to something more pleasant. And you could actually play an instrument, a musical instrument, if you had enough flatulence. Okay.
The fart flute.
Okay. Change the topic.
Well, smack my mama.
One of the breakthroughs this week in news has to do with an AI-generated newspaper, completely AI-generated Italian newspaper, making history. The first daily edition, entirely AI. The editor was even an AI. It was a month-long test. It wrote articles, crafted headlines, generated quotes, even added irony.
Did you read it?
It's in Italian.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. Okay. It's called Il Foglio.
Yeah. The only human task was to ask questions and check its responses, see how factual it was.
Uh-huh.
The newsroom was nothing like a human newsroom. There's no reporters running around, no editors reviewing drafts. The AI just wrote every piece, every opinion piece, every letter from readers. The front page was a lot of political news, as newspapers tend to be. One article looked at the Italian Trump supporters and their conflicting views on cancel culture. Another one looked at the 10 betrayals of Vladimir Putin, broken promises over the last 20 years. Kind of stuff you leave in the headlines,
Sure.
They even looked at national statistics to look at the positive trends in the Italian economy. The good news about it is that it was really clear, it was well structured, it was free of grammatical errors. And let's face it, if it's information that you want to absorb, who cares if it's a human or an AI that
I think
compiled
humans care. Humans care if it's an AI or a human.
Well,
because
if it's data.
AIs do not really have a sense of humor. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. There was a couple stories I rejected today because they weren't quite beefy enough, but one of them was about how people preferred the captions under cartoons made by AIs than by humans, that they were writing better captions for our humor than people were.
It sounds like it's not a fair contest.
Yeah, okay, I know. That's why I didn't put it out there, because I didn't think it was. Yeah.
All right.
But back to the pros and cons of AI-generated journalism.
Okay.
Okay. The pros were that it was clear, it was well structured, it was free of grammatical errors, but it didn't have the human voices, right? And what is the value of the human voices?
Uh-huh.
Depends on the
Right.
story.
Okay.
And if it's the weather, I probably don't care.
Well, I think that the thing that we like about AIs is that it saves us time. It gives us access to way more information in much less time. So that alone is a reason to have more of it. It might be more boring, but you'll have more of it.
Yeah. Well, I say the pros are it's the speed, the efficiency, the cost savings, that there were few journalists. It means that it's going to be lower expenses. It's going to be a lot cheaper. And that the news reporting from AIs can be objective because they're very neutral. They lack a bias. That's debatable. But the objectivity is one of the pros. The concern is that they can't really provide much emotional insight or personal experience. Right? They lack the depth. They rely on their training data and what they were trained with, which may contain the biases. So the training data itself determines how the actual story is. And there is the whole thing about if more of the AIs are writing the stories, what will the journalists do instead?
Good question.
What's better than writing your story? The Italians proved with Il Foglio AI that AI can create a newspaper, but how can the humans make it better? AIs can do the summaries. They can help with the fact-checking and drafts. However, investigative reporting, interviews, ethical decisions, and yes, Mrs. Future, humor.
Yeah.
Humor.
Well, that's why they pay us the big bucks.
Yeah. Okay. Welcome back, folks, to Future Now. We're just commenting on this solar energy that's...
So this is expected to increase geomagnetic volatility across...
Yes, geomagnetic activity is expected to increase.
Definitely. That's what we are observing, a lot of increased activity.
Yeah, if technology is any indication of how it works and bugs and stuff, this is definitely increasing.
All right.
Okay, I got a couple of interesting pieces on robots. One, there was a robot that learned how to ride a skateboard.
I'm just a robot having fun rolling down the road.
I thought was pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. See, the beginning of data, right? Robots wanting to be just like us,
This
like
looks
the cool us.
This looks like one of the dog robots.
Uh-huh.
You know, it looks like a dog.
All right.
And it's
Well,
learned how to pick up a four-legged robot perched on top of a skateboard, and it can have a little cart that it pulls behind the skateboard. So you can go shopping, it can take the groceries home.
how cool.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's pretty close.
Skateboards for robots.
Yeah. The University of Michigan's Computational Autonomy and Robotics Lab. They've teamed up with the Southern University of Science and Technology in China to crack a problem about how to get a machine to perform a task that involves a continuous motion, as well as abrupt changes and direct contact with the real world, like skateboarding. So they came up with a whole new framework called Discrete Time Hybrid Automata Learning, or DHAL. Discrete Time Hybrid Automata Learning.
All right. So we're watching a robot skate down a few stairs.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you've seen them run and walk and dance and do backflips.
Mm-hmm.
But this one deals with contact. With skateboarding, you have this smooth glides and you have those sudden discrete changes like stepping onto the board, pushing off, shifting your balance. And this hybrid nature of the craft seems to make it difficult for the robots to learn using the usual algorithms.
Mm.
So that's the big breakthrough, that they've come up with this new locomotion algorithm.
Oh, I like the video where the little dog robot on the skateboard is pulling a cart.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have one of those carts.
Do you?
Know?
Oh, wow. You need
get
one of
it
these
at Costco,
Those little
but
beach
yeah,
carts.
it looks like a dog robot.
Yeah,
you know,
I know,
it's
exactly,
just a little bit bigger than the skateboard itself.
Yeah, that's affordable. I mean, I think Unitree is making those for a couple $1,000, you know?
Yeah.
The dogs could be the first really useful home robot.
Oh, there you go. Everybody's going to have their robot dog before they have their robot servant, huh?
Yeah. Now, the question is how important is this algorithm that these guys have developed, that we have it? Is it open source? Is it available, or what?
And what do we know about it?
We know from ZME Science, this article in zmescience.com, that it exists and that these guys have developed it, and it isn't perfect yet. They said they haven't generalized to highly dynamic skateboarding tricks.
Yeah, some of these examples, they have it.
Yeah.
This robot is very satisfied to inch along at a very slow speed on the skateboard, right? It's like, okay, we're moving, no problem. I'll just wait.
Yeah. But it's a proof of concept that they were able to do. So they feel like it needs more research, and that's where we are. It's still the future.
Right.
But the connections between a robot and the skateboard, or in this case, the dog robot and the skateboard, that's going to be gold. It looks to me like a very promising interface, especially if you have an electric skateboard and the dog robot can.
Oh, there you go. Maybe all the dog robot has to do is master the buttons on the autonomous skateboard.
Yeah. Because right now the dog is using the right leg and
the paws
to push the skateboard.
To push the skateboard like a person would push off on a skateboard as a person.
Yes.
But it is going pretty fast down the stairs. It did handle the stairs.
Yeah.
These
I
cement
guess-
stairs pretty well.
Yeah, and it did become off center. I mean, if you notice, it uses one of its legs to stay on the board instead of fall off as it's bouncing down the steps.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Further down, there's a video of it pulling that cart.
Just putting AI into an electric scooter, and that the scooter doesn't even need arms or anything. It could just start rolling by itself, and you could tell it to come pick you up or something.
Yeah, it's starting to get interesting here. The second video is where he's pulling the cart with using his foot again. That's the cart that you liked, that you have, Bobby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can get it at Costco. It's like $100 and it folds up. It's really cool. You can put it in your trunk. It's like an accordion. It expands out. It's a little wagon.
Yeah.
It's great for putting your tent and other things when you go camping.
Yeah.
In.
Okay, so we'd have the dog robot for deliveries.
Okay.
We'll have the dog robot for deliveries, okay? And then we'd have a humanoid robot for the domestic tasks in the house. And there's a new test. There's a number of companies that are creating humanoid robots for domestic applications, your personal servant or maid or whatever you need around the house. And there's a Norwegian company called 1X. They're planning to start their test this year with their new robot called Neo Gamma. And they wanted to at least have a few hundred, if not a few thousand homes by the end of the year. And so they're looking for people who are early adopters that want a robot in their house.
Oh, boy.
They want it to live and learn among people.
Okay, what kind of robot is this?
It's a humanoid robot.
Okay.
All right. And they're in competition with the Tesla bots like
Optimus.
Optimus.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's just like in the movies. Figure One is the other company.
Yeah, Figure One is the
Or Figure.
software. Figure is working on the emulation software where the robots can be taught based on watching you and then practicing what you teach them and then practicing in their own little VR worlds. That's the Figure One software.
Figure One was the first one that made it famous, but they're up to Figure Two right now, and they'll soon be testing Figure 3.
Wow.
Yeah, so they're coming right along.
Mhm.
Bay Area competitor to 1X. And
These catchy names.
Yeah.
Figure 1, 2, 3, 1X.
But the important point is that they begin home tests, and you can play with one yourself. That's where the rubber meets the road.
Well, maybe.
The future is now.
I'm still a little afraid of robots. They are big, heavy metal things. I mean, it's kind of like putting an autonomous motor on your e-bike or something and give it freedom to roam around the house. That's a real bull in the china shop kind of opportunity.
Well, that's why it's for early adopters only. For those who aren't afraid to have a bull in their house.
Oh, I am so very sorry.
We need to have padded robot rooms.
I don't know. We have to test them out in real situations in order for them to be adopted. We can't just put them in special little environments.
You do not want an untested robot here in this studio. I mean, we can barely manage it ourselves.
Well,
right?
I would agree with you that they should be in a part of the house where there's not a lot of things they can break.
Oh, good. I'm glad you agree with me there. We'll put them under the house where there's lots of junk that they can get rid of.
No. I don't want no robot under my house. I want the robot in my living room. Or
Alan,
at the dining room table.
Your studio's in your living room.
Yeah,
Not a good idea.
I'd say that the rest of the living room they could go to, not the studio. Too many buttons to push in here.
So you think there'll be something like with your Oculus goggles where you can just draw a virtual line around where they're allowed to go and not? It'll be
Absolutely.
like an invisible fence for them?
Well, they have fencing on robot vacuum cleaners. Fencing is normal. Geofencing is absolutely normal. Yeah, so you can define the area in which they can become familiar, and you show them the things in that environment that they need to play with and the other things they need to avoid. I think that's relatively trivial, so I think it'll be no time at all we'll be able to train them for living room activity.
What could possibly go wrong?
Kitchen might be harder. Things could go wrong in the kitchen. There are a lot of glasses.
No, we'll definitely put the kitchen on the don't go
Yeah.
side of the line until such time as we train them very carefully to do a very few things in the kitchen.
I'd say maybe
I'll give them their own robot counter. How's
living room, the dining room, maybe.
They can have the counter where the microwave is.
How about the backyard?
Depends on
Depends
how
on your yard,
sensitive they are to living things.
Yeah. Not the hot tub. And definitely not the bathroom. Bedroom, well.
Oh.
Bedroom's another story.
Really? What do you want to do with the robot in the bedroom, Al?
Oh, it can help me dress.
Here is your outfit for Tuesday, sir.
And hold my clothes at night.
You know what? You can have these services in the guest bedroom.
Okay, so robot in the guest bedroom, not the master bedroom of the house first. Okay. You know, it reminds me of a story that Jim Rintoul sent in to us this week.
Yeah, let's try that story.
Yeah.
Maybe
you
guys
it's
have to
kind of
let us
related to
know
this
if you can
line.
hear it. We did fix the audio, but those solar
Okay,
flares
let me
are
know.
still wreaking havoc.
This is a piece that he discovered on robosexual rights.
You have to stop talking after you run the piece so it
Fine.
doesn't mute it. Okay.
Fine, I'm just doing the intro. It's a piece on robosexual rights, policy acceptance, and the technology. We gave it to Larry and Mary, and they gave us this rousing 5-minute report. Here we go.
All right, so buckle up, because today we're diving headfirst into a topic that might seem like it's straight out of science fiction, but it's surprisingly relevant right now. We're talking about robosexuality. Robosexuality.
Okay.
Yeah. We've got this excerpt from a document, and it basically lays out this whole plan for how society could accept people who are, well, sexually attracted to robots. And it gets pretty detailed. Like, it's not just talking about the idea itself. It actually proposes actions for governments, companies, like the whole shebang.
Wow, that's interesting. I hadn't really seen anything that goes that far.
Right. It really makes you wonder, are we actually on the verge of, like, robot rights?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely pushes us to rethink a lot of things we take for granted.
Exactly. And what really struck me is how this document goes way beyond just saying, okay, robosexuality exists. It actually lays out specific steps for how to integrate it into society, like even updating anti-discrimination laws.
Oh, wow. That's pretty huge. So we're talking about a world where, like, attracted to robots is a checkbox on forms and stuff.
That's what it sounds like. How do you even begin to think about implementing something like that legally?
Well, first off, you'd have to figure out if the laws we already have about sexual orientation even apply here, or if we need, like, totally new ones.
Yeah, I mean, does being attracted to a robot even count as a sexual orientation?
Right, exactly. And then there's the whole issue of, like, how do you even prove that someone's being discriminated against because of that? It's pretty tricky.
It's mind-boggling. And the document keeps going. It also talks about using public awareness campaigns to, like, normalize robosexuality. You know, like those campaigns for LGBTQ plus acceptance. Do you think those could work for this too?
Maybe, but there are some pretty big differences here. Like with LGBTQ plus campaigns, they had this whole existing community and real stories to draw from. With robosexuality, it's we're still in the very early stages, you know, so it's hard to say how effective those campaigns would be.
Yeah, you're right. It's not quite the same. And even if they did happen, like what would they even look like? How do you represent relationships with robots in a way that feels real and that people can actually relate to?
That's a great question. I think it would require a lot of careful thought and understanding of what robosexual people actually experience and want, which is something we're only starting to figure out.
Right, right. Okay, and now this is where things get really interesting. The document suggests that we should incorporate robosexuality into diversity training.
Diversity training.
Yeah, like in schools and workplaces.
Wow. That's a bold idea. How would that even work? Imagine having a workplace training, you know, where you're talking about racial sensitivity and gender identity, and then bam, robosexuality is on the agenda.
Exactly. Would people even take that seriously? Or would it just, like, become a joke?
Yeah, there's definitely a risk of that happening. I think the key would be how it's presented. It has to be informative, respectful, and it should really emphasize the goal of creating a truly inclusive environment.
Yeah. And then there's the whole tech side of things, which, you know, can't ignore that.
Oh, absolutely.
The document talks about designing robots that specifically cater to the preferences of, you know, robosexual people.
Yeah, that raises some ethical questions for sure.
Right. Like, on the one hand, it's about giving people what they want, right? Like any other product. But on the other hand, it gets into this tricky territory of objectification and power dynamics and all that.
Totally. It's almost like we're stepping into this whole new world of relationships and we have no idea what the rules are yet.
It's true. It's like a whole new frontier. And the document even acknowledges that by suggesting things like, you know, government-funded support groups and online spaces for robosexual people.
Which makes sense. If you think about it, feeling isolated or like no one understands you can be really tough. Having a safe space to connect with others who get it can make a huge difference.
Yeah, for sure. And finally, the document calls for more research into robosexuality. Like, how common is it? What's the impact on people? How do you even start to study something like that?
Well, I think you'd need a bunch of different experts involved, like sociologists, psychologists, even people from the tech world. But one of the biggest challenges is even defining what robosexuality is. Like, is it just about sexual attraction? Or is it something more like emotional?
That's a good point. I mean, we're so used to thinking about relationships in a very human-centric way.
Exactly. It really challenges our whole framework.
It does. So out of all these steps that the document lays out, which one do you think is the most crucial?
To me, it's the research. We need to really understand what we're dealing with before we can start making laws or launching campaigns or designing robots. We need that solid foundation of knowledge first.
Yeah, that makes sense. I totally agree. Wow, this whole deep dive has really given me a lot to think about.
Me too.
If technology keeps blurring the lines between humans and machines, what's going to happen to our understanding of love, relationships, even just basic rights? It's a question we all need to grapple with, even if we don't personally identify as robosexual.
Absolutely. It's a conversation that's just beginning.
Exactly. And it's one that's going to have a huge impact on the future.
No doubt about it. It's always fascinating to explore these uncharted territories.
Until next time, keep those minds open and those questions coming.
Stay curious.
Okay, there you go. Stay curious.
Wow, a lot to think about.
You're telling me.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's not something people have thought about a lot yet.
Except you.
Well, I've thought about it for a while, that's true.
Maybe
but,
Greg. Let's see. Who else is thinking about this stuff? There's definitely people who are jonesing for it.
Well, not so much jonesing for it, but more like the humanoid robot in the house. You can't ignore that aspect of it. It's going to be something that people will bond with.
Ooh.
In various ways. Because it's humanoid, we tend to
Are you
bond
trying to
it.
tell me something, honey?
I'm kind of saying, don't get jealous, dear.
Not me. No,
it's not.
Why waste
It's
my
not.
time?
Don't waste your time. Right.
In fact, I really think that this is my form of having a nice babysitter for you.
Oh, there you go.
Free me up.
Free you up. Especially if you can make the meals, right?
Among other things, yeah.
Yeah, among other things. Oh. Yeah, this might
No need to be jealous, Al. I got my own movie
Well, that's
here.
the whole thing, too. If people get jealous and they, throw the robot down the cliff or something, it's just a matter of buying another one.
Oh, are you telling me what's going to happen when you have to deal with it?
No, you going to have a robot, too?
It'll be my robot.
What do you mean you're a robot? It's doing what I want it to do. It's my robot.
We'll have to share. Or maybe we'll have to have two.
Yeah, I think so. I think this is going to be ding ding. That's the right answer. 2 robots.
Okay. Well, you just be careful what you wish for.
Mine and yours, and they can share. Sometimes you can use mine. It's kind of like our phones. Don't you think our phones are a good metaphor?
Okay, definitely.
For the future of these machines.
Yeah, they definitely have different strengths and different advantages.
And they bring up another issue about that too, is that phones we don't get so bonded to because they're basically, slabs of glass. Mm-hmm. But these things have faces. They have bodies. They have tones of voice.
They're more like cars.
Well, except that you can choose which entity comes through it at any time. You can choose a male voice or female or whatever you want, right?
So they're more like jukeboxes?
Yeah, more like
C-3PO.
More like FaceTime, where you're looking at different people all the time, but you don't necessarily associate the people with the box. There's a disassociation between the form and function, where you think of the robot as something through which many things can happen. So you're less likely to create a normal human bond with it. Mm. And I think that's the mistake we might make, is to bond with these machines as if they were humans, because they're far different than that.
You've spent a lot of time thinking about this, honey.
Absolutely. These things are going to outnumber cars in a very short order.
Yeah, they're going to cost less than a car. You know, that's what Elon is saying.
Oh, yeah. They'll be normal household appliances almost, It's more than an appliance because it's so multifunction. It's like we were trying to talk about what computers were in the early day. Well, what do they do? Well, they do a lot of things. It's not a function anymore. It's not that kind of thinking.
Yeah, well, you start pursuing in what ways they're useful to you, and then that becomes a new area of utility that they get better and better at as people improve them.
And if they have an algorithm to improve your algorithm and to make you always learn, to always present information in a way that excites you and interests you,
Yeah.
then it's an upward spiral in terms of both the human machine evolution.
Absolutely. Now you're touching on the area that I think is interesting about gaming. I realized that I like to play games because I see them as art forms of where people have put new opportunities for learning. They're basically patterns that you can learn about and then master in a creative context. And as soon as I feel like I've gotten to the end of a game of learning, it's boring to me and I usually get rid of it. But there's always new kinds of games to explore. And then that puts you in a new learning kind of mode.
Yeah, that's a fine example. Yeah, because you're always learning something new and a new form of new patterns, new ways of thinking.
And of course, being
neuroplasticity.
From the developer background that I have, I see through all of these games to the artists who put them together. You know, I really see the humans behind the games appreciating some quality of aesthetic or some skill that you can learn through this medium.
So you're convinced the games you're playing were made by humans, huh?
Yeah, they are. You can tell. They're just new modes of storytelling or new modes of winning a prize, new modes of proving that you're faster or smarter or have more information, all the things that we like to do with games.
Yeah. Now, I've always admired your ability to be able to go from one game to another.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's more than one a day sometimes.
Yeah.
It's really
Well, you don't have to be attached to these things. And I think that's really the big thing about all tech is that you don't have to be attached to it because you know that it kind of came from nothing. It can go back to nothing. You can always get an improved version once you've mastered what
I would imagine
there was.
also give you a neuroplasticity in looking at a game and quickly figuring out how it works, what the rules are.
Yeah, I think that always exposing yourselves to new learning gives you better neuroplasticity.
It's like a muscle, learning muscle.
And games are kind of a fun and low-risk way of keeping that going.
Do you like games too, Bobby?
Yeah,
not as much as her.
I think life is a big game.
Yeah,
here.
there you go. It's all the game, all the time. And it's a simulated game. On top
All right.
of that.
Well, speaking of games, let's go to our bottom of the hour game of introducing people to the sponsors of Santa Cruz Voice. All right?
All right. We'll see you after the break.
We'll be right back.
What you see, motionless sweet, nothing.
Hi, folks. How many of you out there love to garden? Wouldn't it be nice to grow some of your own food? Or maybe a flower garden would brighten your day. All you need is the Knox Garden Box, a heavily constructed, portable, elevated garden on legs that can virtually change the way you've gardened in the past. The Knox Garden Box can be set up anywhere. Yes, you can place it right on concrete at knoxgardenbox.com. That's KNOX, gardenbox.com.
You have a voice and would like to be heard. Cabrillo College Extension, CTV, and Santa Cruz Voice are hosting an 8-part podcasting and streaming concept to creation class beginning the 1st of April. Learn everything you need to create and host your own digital media show. Selecting hardware and software, formatting, programming, recording, editing, distributing, marketing, and monetizing. Details and registration on the Cabrillo College Extension website under podcasting and streaming. Seating is limited, so do not delay. Be heard.
You need a clean, pleasant space to conduct business, but you don't want the burden of a long, expensive lease. Your solution is Satellite Co-working and Digital Media Studio on Soquel Avenue. Satellite offers private offices, meeting and conference rooms, even co-working by the hour, day, week, or month. Schedule a tour at satellitecoworking.com. Mention Santa Cruz Voice for 20% off your first reservation.
Cannabis is one of nature's most beneficial plants. Hello, I'm Jenna. Treehouse Dispensary, we use information about cannabis to build community. Listen to Xavier.
Thank you, Jenna. For those suffering joint pain, Treehouse suggests trying a CBD THC topical like the Balance Salve from local Santa Cruz company, Jade Nectar. Then enjoy the relief.
For answers to your cannabis questions, ask your friends at Treehouse Dispensary, 3651 Soquel Drive in Soquel, or ourtreehouse.io.
And we are back. Our final segment.
It's such an interesting world.
Last week, the entire tech industry put their attention on the NVIDIA GTC GPU Technology Conference. For those who don't know about this is a week-long event that is a platform for the company to show off its latest devices. And this year, the CEO, Jensen Huang, showed off they call the Blackwell Ultra and the Rubin graphics processing units. Those two are really the cornerstone of their work. The Rubin graphics processing units are part of their latest artificial intelligence chips. They also introduced their NVIDIA GTC lineup, which they hadn't done in some time. And March 20th was the NVIDIA Quantum Day, which is where they celebrate the future of quantum computing.
On the equinox.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting about the quantum computing thing, Wang, who had said in the past that he thought it would be like 15 to 20 years before anything would come of quantum computing, that they're still very early on. And that was kind of a mistake on his part because quantum computing stocks
tanked when they heard him say that because people believe him.
For example, Ionic. And he had made that statement. What he did this last week is he walked back that statement.
Well, he challenged some of his partners to prove him wrong. So he did it in a pretty classy way.
He brought in the heads of these quantum companies to talk about what's real about this. What did he get wrong?
Right.
Yes, I guess they did pretty well. And he admitted that he was wrong at the end of the event. So, and still, and you know what? The stocks still tanked. They still went down after this event. But hopefully not as much that they may recover. It's kind of like Tesla stock, right? Tesla stock has been recovering since this.
You know, people in the stock market know how to make money as the stock is tanking, and then they buy it when it's low, and then they make money as it regains its value. It's kind of a big shill game.
Yeah.
And they're releasing a new quantum computing research center, NVIDIA, in Boston, Massachusetts. And the facility will allow them to integrate what they say are leading quantum hardware with AI supercomputers, enabling what is known as accelerated quantum supercomputing. Accelerated quantum supercomputing. Okay, so as I mentioned it, all these statements still didn't really boost the shares for the sector, that the quantum computing stocks dipped anyway. But they seem to be recovering. And they seem to be coming back up again and going in a positive direction. Masterfully done. Was a tough thing. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the fusion industry, how fusion's always 10 or 15 years away.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a fusion company, you don't want to just be talking about plans 10 years out, at least in this day and age.
Well, when you're doing a song and dance, it's partly educational, partly entertaining, and partly just to grease the wheels with more investment.
Yeah.
So you have to take it with a grain of salt. They're doing the best they can without releasing their trade secrets.
Mm-hmm. So do you agree that NVIDIA's on top of the game? AI?
Well, today, there's nothing that...
They're going down today, but not very much. You know.
Yeah. I would say this would be a good time to buy NVIDIA stock and quantum stocks, too, if there's any lulls, because all the forecasting is like... If you're going to have autonomous cars and autonomous robots and all this supercomputing that NVIDIA is producing, there's going to be a huge demand for all this.
Actually, you know what drove the stock down besides this was this idea of DeepSeek making the NVIDIA chip and quantum computing obsolete. And since then, that has been proven to be pretty much just a complete lie. That this DeepSeek was not really such a big innovation. It's kind of the equivalent of ChatGPT-3 or something.
Right. Yes, but at first it did bring down the NVIDIA stock quite a bit when they announced DeepSeek. But it turns out in order to use DeepSeek and to train it, you really need these supercomputers that NVIDIA is producing in order to do this. So the stock came back up very quickly after that.
Right. Yeah, and every time that Trump announces their investment, I know they're building a new manufacturing plant, right? That's one of the other things going on with NVIDIA is that they're doing some major investment in the U.S.
Yes, yeah.
You know.
Well, TSMC, yeah, is going to produce that new lab in Arizona or Nevada, I guess. But anyway, it's a huge plant. And so it'll be the first time that we're actually manufacturing it like 1 nanometer chips in the US and not worry about China taking over Taiwan and we lose that whole technology.
Yeah, well, we didn't go to war when they clamped down on Hong Kong, and we're going to have to figure out how to avoid war when they clamp down on Taiwan. So if we get the best of what we've helped create there to be happening here, we should be able to remain peaceful co-inhabitants of our planet. We can convince the warlords we don't need to destroy all the rest of our beauty here just so that they can feel like, I don't know. I know that the deep state is banking on war with China to keep their pockets deep.
Supposedly 2 years out or something like that. I think that's the plan.
Yeah, but if we can just make it that everybody is into peaceful coexistence and regional partnerships, then we can do like what we're doing with the EU right now and just say, hey, we're here for you as friends, but you kind of need to take care of your own local interests and do that in a way that keeps your relationships with your neighbors good.
Okay.
So I think the quantum computing is going to radically change the whole computing infrastructure. We're talking orders of magnitude, different types of intelligences and solving different types of problems that are way beyond the supercomputers today. But yes, it's going to take a few years where you can utilize that. But Google with their Willow computer and Microsoft with their new quantum computer, they're revolutionary right now. They're just amazing.
What kinds of stuff has impressed you about them?
Well, it's the number of qubits and error correcting that Google has done with their Willow quantum computers. So they use 3 quantum chips and 2 are used for error correction and to produce. The problem with quantum computing is there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of errors that can show up. And when you add more qubits, it just multiplies those errors. But then they found a way to error correct. Like in memory chips, you have these EEC error correcting memory chips that correct for memory errors. Well, they've done the same thing with quantum computer chips. So that orders of magnitude had improved quantum computing.
Well, so you're into the numbers, but are you aware of like, why are there so many errors that need to be corrected that it makes such a big difference? I think the question really, to me, it comes down to, well, are we trying to address questions where the answer isn't yes or no, it's maybe, and therefore we have to be able to tell the difference between, well, whether to believe it or not? I mean, is that what quantum computers give us?
Well, the way these qubits work is not only is there an on and off bit, but there's also, they can be simultaneously on and off at the same time. But when we measure that, there can be an error that's happening. And then if you amplify the number of qubits and it's taking that error and it multiplying it again, you get multiple errors. But what Google has done with their Willow chip is they have 3 quantum chips that if 2 of them say the same answer, then
so it's
they'll
best
take
out
that
of 3,
as,
huh?
yeah, 2 out of 3 answer. And that definitely remove the error problem.
Great. Okay, well, that's what I thought. I just thought we should talk about it, sort of bring it into our level of conversation where it's a little more mainstream.
Yeah, well, quantum computers, the error problem is a big one, and probably the AIs will help solve that.
Mm-hmm. And that was a good answer, Bobby. I appreciate your insight and your ability to explain that. That's great.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm excited that what Jensen Huang has actually come up with these new chips like this. What they had, what they called Project Digits, and it's the $3,000. It's the size of a Mac Mini.
Yeah.
And it sits on your desktop, but it's actually your AI server. And it can do 1 petaflop, which is an amazing amount of calculations and AI calculations that it can do. So
wow.
I think in the next year, all these companies will have at least one of these digits. They renamed it. They called it DGX Spark. So it's going to be a little Spark box that's sitting inside the company. You're going to have all your AI information held privately. And it's going to be like a little server sitting there. And then they have these workstations that are coming up, which is the RTX Pro workstation. I'm sure it's going to be over $10,000. And then they have the DGX Station, which is even bigger than that. And it can do 20 petaflops. So that's like having 20 of these Spark boxes. It's a workstation. It's like a PC for these programmers.
That's fantastic. Wow.
So you think as these machines become more and more accurate and more available, we're all going to have our own personal AIs right on our desk and not need to be part of the...
Well, that's it. It's the local intelligence that, Bobby's definitely behind, right? That you see how these AIs don't have to be networked in order to be powerful.
Well, instead of relying on the cloud, and whenever you ask it a question, it goes up to some server in the cloud and it comes back with an answer. Companies can't trust their intellectual property to be like distributed out on the internet and then coming back with an answer. They could lose a lot of their intellectual property, not only to train these supercomputers that Microsoft owns or Google owns, but it could be captured and taken to other countries. So what you have to have is local AI. And these computers will be agents. They will replace a lot of people, and they'll have enough intelligence to make decisions and do forecasting for companies. So already the stock market, there's companies out there that use AI to predict the stock market, and they're doing quite well. I mean, better than humans.
And when do you get your own personal one so that you can do that too?
Yes.
That's the key thing there. In terms of this local element, it's an interesting trend because I noticed this week that Google Home has updated their home automation systems so that they work much better when they're offline. It used to be that your Google Assistants and your smart lights would stop working if the Wi-Fi decided to take a coffee break. Well, they've just rolled out a game-changing thing where no more internet, no problem. It'll just start working locally. So your idea of how AIs will also be decentralized to that extent, I think, is part of that trend.
Right. Even Apple, they have 16 neural processors, mostly lying dormant right now. And when Siri gets upgraded, I think they'll turn on a lot of those AI neural processors, these 16 neural processors. So you'll have local Siri responding to you, and you could have no internet connection, you could have no cellular connection, and you could be talking to Siri. It was supposed to be out now, but it's not. It's a little delayed because they fired the head guy.
Right. Siri's a little behind on that front. I have noticed.
Well, it's so hard for me to really fathom the scale of how fast all of these things are evolving and how non-human they are, and yet how biological. Alan always likes to say that it's a biological process that's driving this, and it's a planetary biosystem that is forming. And when we're talking about these quantum computers and the local control, we're talking about what is now available to us individually as a international cloud of information that we have to query from our individual stations. That is going to be local, so we'll just be querying inside our own little organ, our own little organelle of the worldwide brain. And only when there is some need to either send information to the collection or get something that is available to the collection that our individual node doesn't have, that's when our information is going to be exchanged. It just is so different than the way we think about our individuality and our privacy now. It's so much like we all become neurons instead of people.
Well, another level of organization beyond neurons, actually. When people are connecting with people, it's neural networks connecting with neural networks. It's another level of complexity that we barely grasp.
It's the brain itself, like nerve to nerve.
Is there such a thing as a human mind or human brain that's forming?
Planetary.
Planetary. Well, there's the planetary brain, there's the human brain, and how they all play with each other. Hopefully nice. There's another interesting piece that's come in related to this from the HSBC Global Investment Summit going on. There was a Kathy Wood, who is an investment manager for ARC, founder, CEO, and she thinks that Tesla's robo-taxis will account for 90% of its value over the next 5 years. 90%. That this is way more important than selling Teslas. I can play her talking about that for a minute so you get a feel for that. Here, check this out. Go.
Elon has announced that Tesla will launch its robotaxi service commercially in Austin, Texas in June. That is when analysts are going to have to put into their models what a robotaxi service is. And it's a software as a service model. Very high margin, 80% plus for the platform companies, whereas the electric vehicle is 15, 20, 25% gross margin. So we think that robo-taxis will account for 90% of the value of the company in 5 years. And we're on record saying we believe in 5 years the stock will hit $2,600. And that's not even including humanoid robots, which are now moving into the Tesla ecosystem much faster than even we expected. So more than a tenfold increase just from robo-taxis.
Okay, so there you go. As Elon said, keep your Tesla stock.
Yeah, I agree. What this is this is a simple software upgrade to your Tesla car. And instantly, it can turn into a robo-taxi if you want. And that increases the value of your car tenfold. It's like, it's
because
crazy.
You can basically pimp your car out.
That's right. While you're
you can be in the
sleeping.
rideshare business with your autonomous car.
That handles the problem of how you're going to make money with these AIs.
Well, how are you going to make money with your car?
Which is your mobile AI, yeah.
Your car is like turning into a Bitcoin mine. As long as it can be out there trolling for business, it can be bringing in income.
And there's no hardware upgrade. It is strictly just a software download to your car automatically. and all of a sudden, you've turned into Uber or Lyft automatically. If you want to, you don't have to.
Yeah.
It'll be very interesting what the economy of that will be, because anybody who wants to be in their own business can own a handful of these cars and be their own little taxi fleet. And maybe they'll confine it to just certain members. And so you'll have a pool of cars for your group that makes it more efficient for everybody. So when I used to live collectively, we had about 30 people that were sharing access to 16 vehicles. And we had basically a car collective where anybody who wanted to could reserve their car on our shared calendar. And so we used to say that we're all living twice as nice for 2/3 the price, because we had more vehicles than we knew what to do with, and yet it was much easier to maintain them as a fleet than it was for any individual to maintain their own car plus everything else they needed to do. So, it'll rearrange the way that businesses work for neighborhoods.
Yeah. So it requires less people. You only need one car in your family, if at all.
Well, you're in the city. You'd probably take robo-taxis all the time.
Yeah,
right?
and
Just
it
to go
would be
anywhere.
very inexpensive. You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
No, but see, I think what you're thinking now, you're thinking how people are now. You'll need one car in your family, but that assumes that you and whoever else in your family don't need to get someplace at the same time. And ride sharing is very different. Ride sharing is really more of a reservation system. And the more vehicles that you have access to, the more efficient the reservation system is. Ownership is going to be about A, having money to invest, that you want to have a return on your investment, and B, it's going to be about how much responsibility do you want to take for making sure that that thing is operating profitably.
How does it achieve mass adoption? How does it achieve profitability? Those are the things that are going to be figured out now in the entrepreneurial world. And how does this come about? Well, we know what's going to come about. We know what's going to happen soon. But exactly how? Is it Waymo, the guys in your neighborhood, Bobby? Are they going to be top dog in this, or is it going to be the Tesla robo-taxis that are rolling out later this year?
It has to be Tesla because in order to do Waymo, because of the LiDAR, it takes the amount of equipment, the hardware to add on to a normal Toyota car is $100,000 of hardware.
Yeah, well, Teslas don't require that kind of investment. They're
Tesla
just a software,
is just
right?
a software download for free.
How can you compete with that?
How can you compete with that? Yeah.
Yeah, good point. Well, they are gaining in traction and popularity, but how long will it take is the big question, and who's going to do it? Oh, boy, we're down to the last minute already, huh, Mrs. Future?
See, it's gripping. It's really fun to think about the future with you guys, to see it emerge one little tech article at a time.
Well, it looks like Google DeepMind folks think it's going to take till 2030 for it to be out to the world. But the reports I'm hearing about the Tesla robo-taxis coming out later this year just might shorten that timeline.
Well, I think that Mark Rober's test of how important it is to have LiDAR plus cameras is going to affect Tesla's timeline.
Yeah, Tesla
somehow.
plus a little cheap LiDAR unit. Apparently there's some low-cost ones that are readily becoming available for drones and stuff that could be used on the cars.
It's going to be fun. Stay tuned, folks.
Yeah.
We are going to have to figure it out.
Yeah, well, thank you, Bobby, for being part of the show today. We appreciate your presence.
Yeah.
And
that's great.
Some more fun in the near future. Thank you, folks, for listening. May you have a fitful day and get outside. I think I'm going to do that. Go for a walk on the beach.
Yeah, take pictures of the sun if you can.
The sun, yeah. I'll get my telescope out. It'll be good tomorrow, too, right?
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Hope you're having fun out there. Have a great future now. See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.